The night sky over Earth was clear, stars twinkling like scattered diamonds. In the quiet suburb of Meadowvale, the stillness was shattered by an otherworldly whoosh. The source, a sleek, obsidian-black spacecraft that hovered silently above a small cul-de-sac. No alarms were triggered, no dogs barked. This was no ordinary intrusion. Inside one of the modest homes, 12-year-old Ethan Parker was engrossed in his favorite survival game. His younger sister, Lily, sat nearby, building an elaborate structure out of blocks. Neither of them noticed the faint shimmer of blue light filtering through the windows until it was too late. The light intensified, enveloping them both in a cocoon of energy. Moments later, the children vanished, leaving their game console blinking in an empty room. When the hum ceased, the Parker siblings found themselves waking up in a sterile metallic chamber. The walls pulsed with a green glow from alien glyphs, while the air smelled faintly of something metallic and sharp. Ethan groaned, rubbing his eyes, but his hand froze as he noticed the creature standing before them. It was tall, its elongated limbs moving fluidly as though underwater. Translucent skin revealed shifting hues of green and silver, and its enormous eyes radiated intelligence and indifference. Lily stirred beside him, letting out a small whimper. She clutched Ethan's arm as the alien moved closer, its three-fingered hand gesturing toward a console embedded in the wall. A melodic hum filled the air, oscillating in patterns that seemed almost hypnotic. Then came the voice, cold, mechanical, and jarring in its contrast to the creature's fluid movements. Subjects 742 and 743 identified. Testing commences shortly. Do not resist. Lily's grip tightened. What do they mean? Testing. Ethan shook his head, his mind racing. Was this an abduction? An experiment? His love for science fiction offered no comfort. None of the alien encounters he'd imagined had prepared him for this. We're not going to let them do anything to us, he whispered, more to reassure Lily than himself. The alien tilted its head as though observing them. Ethan felt its gaze pierce him, studying them as if they were specimens in a lab. Then the room filled with blinding light. Ethan barely had time to shield his sister before darkness consumed them both. Ethan awoke to an eerie stillness. His surroundings were no longer metallic, but lush and green. Giant trees stretched skyward, their canopies glowing faintly with bioluminescent light. Vibrant plants swayed, though there was no breeze. The air was humid, carrying the scent of earth and something sweet yet unfamiliar. "Ethan!" Lily's voice trembled as she emerged from a cluster of ferns. She looked tiny against the towering flora, her wide eyes darting nervously. "I'm here," he said, pulling her into a quick hug. "We're going to figure this out." As he took in their surroundings, Ethan couldn't ignore the eerie silence. No birdsong, no insects buzzing, only the occasional rustle of leaves. His gut twisted. He'd spent hours playing survival games, but this felt unnervingly real. "Where are we?" Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Not on Earth," Ethan replied, scanning for clues. He pointed to the sky, visible through gaps in the canopy. 2 suns burned low on the horizon, casting the forest in hues of gold and crimson. "Wherever this is, it's not home." Lily's eyes welled with tears, but Ethan squeezed her hand. "We'll get back. We just have to stay smart and stay together." A guttural roar shattered the stillness, freezing them in place. The ground trembled as something massive approached. Ethan's heart pounded as he caught sight of the creature, a hulking beast with armored scales, 4 muscular legs, and glowing eyes that locked onto them. "Run!" Ethan hissed, pulling Lily behind him. They darted through the underbrush, the beast crashing through foliage behind them. Ethan's mind raced. There were no weapons, no tools, only the environment. He spotted a low-hanging branch and leaped to grab it, helping Lily climb up after him. The creature slammed into the tree, its claws raking the bark as it roared in frustration. Ethan scanned their surroundings, his survival instincts kicking in. A cluster of strange spiked fruits hung from a branch nearby. He snapped one off and hurled it at the beast. The fruit exploded on impact, releasing a sticky, acidic substance that made the creature howl and retreat. "Good thinking," Lily said, her voice shaking but full of awe. "We're not out of this yet," Ethan replied, helping her climb higher. "We need to find shelter and figure out what they want from us." The siblings navigated the alien jungle for hours, avoiding predators and using every ounce of wit and ingenuity they had. As night fell, the forest came alive with bioluminescent light, casting an eerie glow over everything. Exhausted but determined, they stumbled into a clearing. In its center stood a structure that looked out of place, a metallic dome with glowing blue panels. "That's got to be important," Ethan said, his voice laced with hope and suspicion. The dome's entrance slid open with a hiss, revealing a spacious interior filled with advanced technology. Monitors lined the walls, displaying scenes of other children in environments just as hostile. Deserts, tundras, alien cities, all of them struggling to survive. Ethan's stomach churned. "It's a test," he muttered, anger rising in his chest. "They're watching us." A booming voice startled them. "Subjects 742 and 743, welcome to the Apex trial. Your performance will determine the survival of your species." "We're not lab rats," Lily shouted, her voice defiant despite her trembling frame. The voice ignored her. "Failure to adapt will result in elimination. Proceed with caution." Ethan clenched his fists. "They think we're just kids," he said through gritted teeth, "but they don't know what humans are capable of." A panel slid open, revealing a cache of survival gear, knives, ropes, and tools. Ethan grabbed what he could carry, determination hardening his features. "If they want hunters," he said, his voice steady, "we'll show them what humans can do." The night had grown colder, and the twin suns that dominated the alien sky had long since dipped below the horizon. Ethan and Lily huddled together near the metallic dome they had discovered earlier, their thoughts racing after the cryptic announcement about the Apex trial. For Ethan, the words kept replaying in his mind. "Your performance will determine the survival of your species." The weight of that statement bore down on him as he stared into the glowing wilderness. What do you think it means?" Lily asked, her voice quiet but trembling. Her arms were wrapped tightly around herself, both for warmth and comfort. Ethan sighed, turning to face his sister. "I don't know yet," he admitted, "but whatever it is, we're not going to let them win by scaring us. We need to focus on surviving, one step at a time." He gestured to the cache of survival gear they had discovered inside the dome. The knives, ropes, and other tools were scattered between them. Picking up a blade, Ethan examined it under the bioluminescent glow of the forest. It was lightweight but durable, made from a material that looked like metal but felt warm to the touch. "At least we have this," he said, holding the knife out for Lily to see. "We'll figure out how to use everything else as we go." Lily nodded, her eyes wide with determination despite her fear. "What's the first step then?" "Shelter," Ethan replied. "This dome is safe for now, but we don't know what else is out there. We need to learn how to defend ourselves and find food." He pointed toward the forest. "Let's start by scouting the area. If we find water, it could lead us to other resources." The siblings ventured cautiously into the alien jungle. The forest floor glowed faintly, illuminated by strange moss that emitted a soft green light. Every sound seemed amplified. The crunch of leaves underfoot, the distant rustling of foliage. Ethan stayed alert, holding the knife in one hand while his other guided Lily along the safest path. "Stay close," he whispered, his voice barely audible, "and keep an eye out for anything unusual." "Everything is unusual," Lily muttered, though she tried to match his pace. The forest was alive with motion. Strange insect-like creatures with iridescent wings darted between the trees, their soft chirps echoing in the stillness. Once they passed a massive flower with petals that shimmered like liquid metal. When Ethan reached out to touch it, the petals snapped shut, revealing razor-sharp edges. "Guess we should keep our hands to ourselves," he said grimly, pulling Lily back. After an hour of walking, they stumbled upon a stream. The water glowed faintly, much like the moss, and its surface rippled with the movement of small, darting fish. Ethan knelt by the bank, examining the liquid. "Think it's safe to drink?" Lily asked, peering over his shoulder. "Not without testing," Ethan replied. He took one of the small metallic containers from their gear and filled it with water. "We'll boil it later, just to be sure. For now, at least we know there's water here." As they followed the stream, the forest grew denser. The trees seemed almost sentient, their branches twisting toward the siblings as if curious about their presence. Lily kept glancing over her shoulder, her unease growing with every step. "Do you feel like we're being watched?" she whispered. Ethan nodded but said nothing. He had felt it too, a constant, oppressive awareness pressing down on them. It wasn't just the alien environment. Something was actively observing their every move. By the time they returned to the dome, the twin suns were beginning to rise. The siblings were exhausted, but they had gathered useful information about their surroundings. They also carried several spiked fruits, similar to the one Ethan had used to fend off the creature earlier. "We should figure out how these work," Ethan said, setting the fruits down inside the dome. "If they're explosive, they could be useful for defense." Lily poked one cautiously with a stick. "What if they're dangerous?" "Everything here is dangerous," Ethan replied, his tone half joking. "That's why we have to be smarter." He used the knife to carefully slice open one of the fruits. Inside was a viscous green liquid that emitted a faint chemical smell. Ethan dipped the tip of his knife into the substance and watched as the blade began to bubble and hiss. "Acid," he said, his eyes widening. "This stuff could be a weapon." Lily looked both horrified and impressed. "How do we carry it without getting hurt?" Ethan rummaged through their gear and found several small, reinforced pouches. Carefully, he transferred the liquid into one of the pouches, sealing it tightly. "That'll do for now," he said. "We'll test it later to see how effective it is." As the days passed, Ethan and Lily adapted to their new environment. They constructed a makeshift shelter near the dome, using fallen branches and vines to create a protective barrier. Ethan practiced with the tools, learning how to set traps and craft rudimentary weapons. Lily, despite her initial fear, proved resourceful as well. She discovered edible plants and figured out how to navigate the forest without disturbing its more dangerous inhabitants. Their confidence grew, but so did the challenges. Each night, the siblings were haunted by the guttural roars of unseen creatures. They knew they weren't alone in the forest, and the dome's monitors confirmed their suspicions. The screens occasionally displayed glimpses of other competitors, human children in environments just as hostile as their own. Some were succeeding. Others were not. One night, as Ethan studied the monitors, a new figure appeared on the screen. It was a child no older than Lily, running through a barren desert. A massive, insect-like predator pursued them, its pincers snapping hungrily. Ethan's stomach churned as the child tripped, the predator closing in. The screen went dark before the outcome was revealed. "They're testing us," Ethan muttered, his fists clenched. "They're throwing us into these death traps to see how we'll survive." Lily sat beside him, her expression somber. "Why would they do this? What do they want?" "I don't know," Ethan admitted, "but if they think we're just going to play their game, they're wrong." The siblings' resolve was tested sooner than they expected. Early one morning, the dome's alarm system blared, waking them abruptly. Ethan grabbed his knife, his heart racing. "What is it?" Lily asked, clutching her makeshift spear. The monitors flickered to life, displaying a heat signature moving rapidly toward their location. Ethan's eyes widened as he recognized the shape, a creature similar to the one they had encountered before, but larger and more heavily armored. "It's coming for us," he said, his voice steady despite the fear clawing at his chest. "We have to be ready." The siblings quickly fortified their shelter, using the acid-filled fruits and their crafted weapons as makeshift defenses. Ethan positioned Lily in a safe spot, instructing her to stay hidden unless absolutely necessary. When the creature arrived, it was even more terrifying up close. Its scales shimmered like molten metal, and its glowing eyes seemed to radiate malice. It roared, shaking the ground beneath them, and charged. Ethan stood his ground, hurling one of the acid pouches at the beast. The liquid splashed across its face, causing it to howl in pain. It thrashed wildly, but Ethan used the opportunity to strike, driving his knife into a vulnerable spot between its scales. The battle was brutal and chaotic. Ethan's heart pounded as he dodged the creature's attacks, his mind racing for a strategy. Lily, unable to stay hidden, joined the fight, using her spear to distract the beast long enough for Ethan to deliver the final blow. When the creature finally collapsed, the siblings stood in stunned silence, their breaths ragged. "We did it," Lily whispered, her voice filled with equal parts relief and disbelief. Ethan nodded, his grip on the knife tightening. "This isn't over," he said, his gaze fixed on the monitors. "They'll send more. They're testing us, but they don't understand what humans are capable of." He turned to Lily, determination burning in his eyes. "If they want hunters, we'll show them exactly what that means." The Erythian was no longer the pristine research vessel it had been. Alarms blared through its halls as systems failed one by one. The Quelix scientists scrambled to contain the chaos, their once complacent specimens having turned into a coordinated threat. "Specimens from Habitat 17 have breached containment," a panicked subordinate reported to Zarkali. "They've sabotaged 3 drones and compromised the secondary power grid." "How is this possible?" Zarkali demanded, her iridescent exoskeleton flaring with agitation. Inside the ship, Riley and her growing army of children were on the move. Using maintenance tunnels and access hatches, they navigated the ship's labyrinthine corridors, disabling drones and freeing other groups of abducted kids. With every new addition to their ranks, their confidence and strength grew. In one corridor, a Quelix enforcer confronted Riley's group. The towering alien spread its armored limbs, blocking their path. For a moment, the children hesitated, their courage faltering in the face of the monstrous creature. But Riley stepped forward, gripping a jagged piece of metal she had fashioned into a crude spear. "You think we're scared of you?" she snarled. With a rallying cry, the children swarmed the enforcer. Using improvised weapons, quick thinking, and sheer determination, they overwhelmed the alien. When it fell, the group erupted in cheers. "Predators!" the youngest children chanted as they followed Riley deeper into the ship. Zarkali watched the battle unfold on her monitors, her earlier confidence replaced by dread. "They are not specimens," she realized, her voice trembling. "They are hunters." As the children advanced, they began taking control of key systems. Timmy, with help from older kids who understood technology, managed to hack into the ship's mainframe. They discovered files detailing the Quelix's plans for them, plans that involved genetic manipulation and permanent containment. "They think they can experiment on us," Lila said, her voice shaking with fury. "They have no idea who they're dealing with." Riley nodded, her eyes blazing. "We're not just getting out of here, we're taking this ship." The Quelix finally realized the full extent of their error. Zarkali gathered her subordinates in the command center. "Prepare the escape pods," she ordered. "We cannot contain them. If they take this ship, we must abandon it." But Riley had anticipated this. She and her team sabotaged the escape pods, trapping the Quelix aboard their own vessel. When Riley finally stormed the command center with her army, Zarkali stood frozen, her compound eyes reflecting the ferocity of the young hunters before her. "You are more than we calculated," she admitted. "You took us from our homes," Riley said, stepping forward. Her voice was steady, her grip firm on her makeshift spear. "Now, this is our ship." Exakali lowered her head in defeat. The Quelix had made a critical mistake. They had underestimated humanity's most defining trait. These children were not just survivors, they were relentless, adaptable, and, above all, unstoppable. As the Quelix were confined and the children took control of the Erythion, Riley gazed out at the stars through the ship's viewport. For the first time, the vastness of the galaxy seemed less like a prison and more like an opportunity. "Let's go home," she said, her voice filled with quiet triumph. The galaxy would remember this day, not as a victory for the Quelix, but as the moment humanity proved that even the smallest among them were the deadliest hunters in the cosmos.